Open up to questions.
Yeah, Congressman, two things. Did you hear back from the commissioner? Did she respond to your letter, number one? And number two, are you making a distinction between people getting taken away on the street or up on the 10th floor?
We've not yet heard from the commissioner. We didn't ask to hear back from her. What the request is to train and prepare her officers to be ready to enforce city and state law. And when a federal agent is acting unlawfully outside the scope of their authority, they do not have immunity, and they are subject to the same criminal laws that every other New Yorker is. This request is not related to 26 Federal Plaza. This is a federal building. We're not trying to get into jurisdictional battles. I think some of my colleagues up here have smartly written to the Department of Buildings to have them do an inspection to make sure that the 10th floor is up to code. I currently have a lawsuit in federal court with 11 of my colleagues demanding access to the 10th floor, as is our right as members of Congress to conduct oversight of the Department of Homeland Security. And we are pushing in all different ways, but this really arises out of not only some of the lawless behavior and excessive force, violent behavior by ICE officers in this building, but around the country. I mean, we saw someone who was peacefully protesting get shot in the face with a pellet gun. This is the stuff of fascist governments. It is not how democracy works. I've introduced the No Secret Police Act, which now has over 100 co-sponsors in Congress, similar to Assemblymember Simone's bill that was modeled after the No Secret Police Act, because we cannot tolerate masked agents. This is not a country that condones the KKK. That is what we associate masked individuals abducting people, violently assaulting people. That is not who we are in this country. We are a country of immigrants. If you have committed a crime, you should be deported. But over 70% of the people who are arrested in here have no criminal record. This is outrageous lawlessness that is a dragnet sweeping up U.S. citizens, including children. We cannot tolerate that. We will not stand for that. And the NYPD must not stand for that either.
What authority the NYPD has in regards to potentially arresting federal agents? Do they have that power? And if so, how?
So, federal agents have to operate within the scope of their official authority. If they falsely arrest someone for an immigration violation who's actually a U.S. citizen, and without any reasonable suspicion, they can make warrantless arrests if there is reasonable suspicion and if they have evidence to show that the arrest is warranted. But if it is a warrantless arrest with no reasonable suspicion, especially of an American citizen, which is happening around the country, then they are acting outside of the scope of their authority. And if they're acting outside the scope of their authority, they do not have immunity from either lawsuits or criminal prosecution. And if they then commit a crime by assaulting or otherwise using excessive force against that individual, then they have violated state law and they can be and should be arrested.
And what would they be arrested for? What would be the charge?
The first charge that comes to mind is assault. The individual who threw Monica down in 26 Federal Plaza assaulted her. Yeah. That is an assault. I referred that case to the U.S. Attorney's Office right down the block for them to do an investigation as to whether or not that is criminal assault. So that's the most obvious. There are many other violations in the criminal code that might be available as well.
Thank you very much, Congressman, for writing this important letter, for convening this press conference today, for opening your office up to people like Monica who have had their families separated in this building. If I had said to you a year ago, what would happen right now if an individual wearing a mask, not in a law enforcement uniform or wearing a badge or identifying themselves, but just wearing a mask, rolled up here and grabbed one of you without presenting a judicial warrant, without identifying themselves, what should happen? I think almost any of you would have said a year ago, well, obviously the NYPD should prevent that kidnapping from happening, should arrest the person executing that lawless abduction, should protect the individual in question, and should explore, yes, whether that's a kidnapping and the person should be arrested and held accountable. And I'll be honest, I don't even think it would have been that contentious. I really think everyone, especially if I said, what if it's almost always people of color? What if it's with, no particular warning or identification? Everyone would have said, that's why we have police officers, is to protect kidnappings by masked thugs who don't identify themselves and who would try to grab people and haul them away. That's what the rule of law looks like. That's one of the main reasons we have NYPD officers. And I just think everyone would have said, that's how we do it. And if one of you had said, well, what if that is turn out to be a federal law enforcement agent who actually has some lawful reason for detaining that person, then I would have said, well, the NYPD officer could ask that masked person not identifying themselves or wearing anything, do you have a judicial warrant? Do you have lawful grounds? And if in that case they had presented a judicial warrant, identified themselves clearly, and showed they really were federal law enforcement, then the NYPD officer in that case might have said, okay, I'm beyond my jurisdiction, this is a lawful arrest, and stepped back. But that is not what we are seeing. What we're seeing, as the congressman says, is on the streets of Chicago and Los Angeles, and I'll come back to this building in a minute, people who don't present a judicial warrant, who don't identify themselves, who give no reason for you to believe they're actually law enforcement agents or that they have any lawful grounds, and far too many times captured on video, the people they have grabbed have been U.S. citizens, have been lawful permanent residents, or have been the wrong person. And that we've seen in this building time and time again. There's no lawful basis for the vast majority of abductions taking place in this building, even when they grab the person who is on their list. They still are not presenting judicial warrants. They're giving no lawful basis for the abduction. They're not identifying themselves. The abductions in this building are lawful. But if you've been in here long enough, you've seen times when they've grabbed the wrong person. It happened Wednesday of last week. They grabbed a guy and started to arrest a guy named Manuel. And in that case, we were able to clarify he wasn't the person on the list and he walked out. But there have been many times when they have done it. Those are illegal abductions. And if they are conducted on the streets of our city, then it is absolutely, as the congressman says, the case that the NYPD should protect New Yorkers and not allow them to be kidnapped by masked individuals who give no indication of who they are and who present no warrants, especially when they are lawful permanent residents or U.S. citizens. But I believe even in cases where they just have no lawful basis for the abduction that is taking place. And that's why I'm grateful that the congressman wrote the letter that he did to Commissioner Tisch. And I hope that she will respond affirmatively and put the training in place, Gesundheit, that is necessary. I guess what I want to just underline is, part of the reason the letter is necessary is because the Adams administration has failed to do what a mayor at City Hall should be doing to stand up and protect New Yorkers. We wrote a letter, 6 weeks ago, saying we believe the building code and the fire code are being violated on the 10th floor of this building. Mayor Adams, please send inspectors to see whether violations are taking place on the 10th floor of the building that won't let us in. But if there's building code or fire code violations, those are appropriate for the city of New York. But that did not happen. Many of you reported on the guidance that was sent to schools about sanctuary city policies at the beginning of this administration. And with praise to Chancellor Aviles Roman, who really has stood up for students, the guidance that came from City Hall gave me no confidence that this administration is providing clear guidance so that, for example, if a masked agent were to show up at a school and try to barge in, that school safety agent is supposed to ask for a judicial warrant. But what's supposed to happen if that agent just barges in anyway? Well, what should happen is that the NYPD should show up and protect New York City students from lawless abduction. But unfortunately, Mayor Adams has not provided that clarity to his agencies, and as a result, New Yorkers can't count on the fact that the police would protect them if masked individuals came up and grabbed them off the streets of the city.
We are all here because we want to report a crime spree, a bad crime spree that includes kidnapping and assault of New Yorkers. That crime spree is not just being condoned, but spearheaded by a convicted felon. And that is happening in 26 Federal Plaza. If that was happening anywhere else in New York, we wouldn't have to be here because there'd already be action taken about New Yorkers who were and have been assaulted, who are being kidnapped, whose constitutional laws are being violated, and is being ordered by a convicted felon. 34 counts, 37 or 34? 34 count convicted felon. That's what's happening here in New York City. As the president pardons and excuses people who are doing really bad things, he's encouraging horrific things to happen in 26 Federal Plaza. And I have to say, it is clear that the president is trying to create an other, whether the other is immigrants, unfortunately, whether the other are reporters, whether the other is the left or progressives, anyone who wants to point out what his authoritarian regime is doing is wrong and needs to be stopped. And that's why we have to keep having our reporters there, so thank you. And regular New Yorkers, everyday Americans stepping up, continue to witness, continue to show what's going on. And I gotta say, I would be in a much better place if one, this mayor didn't make a deal with the convicted felon, but two, if the mayor tried and failed. If the mayor even stepped up and said, we're going to try to do this, but it just didn't work out. Instead of saying, we have nothing we can do at all. What if the mayor said to the building department, let's get in there and try to find out if they are following code? How comfortable would our New Yorkers feel if they saw a mayor standing up saying we're going to use everything we can? What if the mayor said to the police department, let's go try to enforce the laws of this city that say you cannot assault people, you cannot assault reporters, you cannot support family members whose family members are being kidnapped in front of them? What if that's the mayor you had in this city? How comforting would it be to New Yorkers in a time where people are concerned and people are afraid? Unfortunately, they don't have that kind of mayor. Thankfully, that's only going to be for about 3 months. But those are 3 months where a lot more people can be assaulted, a lot more people can be kidnapped, and nobody is stepping up and saying we're going to do everything that we can.
That's right.
And also, I'm thankful that we have elected officials who, when the mayor is saying I'm going to do nothing, we're going to continue to push. This is about doing what you can with what you have, where you are. We're going to do the best to do that. And that's what this letter is about. And I know that there's a lot of great people in this administration who want to see the city do the right thing. And so we're pushing them to step up, even if your mayor is not letting you. Now is the time. It's only 3 months. Let's do what we can. Let's try to get building inspectors in there. Let's get the police department to step up and say you cannot do this with impunity. Let the city see their leaders saying we're going to do the best that we can to protect you. It's a tough time, but we got your back. And once again, the mayor has not had that. But I'm thankful for the folks who are with us. I'm thankful for the congressmember pushing to do the best we can to address the crime spree that's been going on, and unfortunately seems that it's going to continue.